Everybody, envelopers and Web3 fans, welcome to another episode of the DAO Envelop podcast. And today is going to be the general blockchain episode. I'm your host, Student Crypto MC. And please give a warm online welcome to my guest today. He's Douglas Eriksen. He's the blockchain strategist, NFT consultant, and he's the great man in Web3. He knows everything about Web3. So I'm going to ask him about everything you would love to know. So Douglas, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks so much, Eugene, for having me, and hello to everybody listening at home. Appreciate the very kind intro.
So I prefer to start with the personal story of the speaker. We need to understand how did you get into the blockchain space? How was your personal story? What were your incentives? So tell us briefly, how did you become a crypto Douglas?
No problem. I actually have a background in the music industry. So I worked in the music industry for about 10 to 12 years. I studied digital media in the UK for about 5 years and then came back down to South Africa. And in South Africa, I sort of worked in the recording industry as a producer for a few years. And that's kind of where I got introduced to the whole background industry of the music industry in terms of contracts, artist management, that kind of thing. And noticed very quickly there was quite a large gap for transparency and for fair dealing. There was a lot of corruption in the space, and it kind of disillusioned me with the whole industry itself. And my motivation behind it was always that the music industry in South Africa could be used as a tool for socioeconomic change in the country, which is a country with like quite a wide digital divide as well as an income disparity. So that was kind of the lens with which I entered blockchain, started investing in cryptocurrency, got familiar with underlying technology, and started seeing it as the actual tool for socioeconomic change that I thought the music industry might be. And the further I delved, the more in love with the technology I fell, and so slowly made my way into the Web3 community, which was very welcoming, and started just speaking to innovators and builders in the space, people who are actively engaging in it every day, looking for solutions to daily problems we have. And slowly but surely, I sort of became well versed with the overall space and what way projects should move, how existing business structures should adopt this kind of technology. And before I knew it, I was working as a blockchain strategist.
I really love the term blockchain strategist. It contains a lot of senses, a lot of points, perhaps everything, including history. How did we get it? And
that's the goal, yeah.
What are you most excited about in the Web3 world? I would love to ask you.
Oh, that's a big question. It's hard to nail down. I guess one of the things that sort of underpins the entire ecosystem for me is the people that are working in it. And that seems very obvious, but the community itself that's behind the Web3 innovation, the ones who are actually building it. And I'm not talking necessarily about the centralized platforms. They've got some great people working for them, but the community as a whole are trying to work towards changing the way we approach work, changing the way we collaborate, and changing the way we build things together. Because I think up until now, the sort of structure has been very competitive. And as much as there's still competition in the Web3 space, a lot of it is very collaborative. And that might be due to the relatively small community it is at the moment. But as it's being built out, there's a lot of inclusion, there's a lot of collaboration. There's very little to do with, very little to do with aggressive competitiveness in the space that I've been lucky enough to experience. And with that comes this, it's a trustless network that is being built in blockchain. And I think that the people sort of reflect that. You don't need to be distrustful. It's all trustworthy. And the people working in the space, you can pretty much guarantee that they've got your best interests at heart as well as their own. That's been my experience so far. Maybe I've been very lucky, but I'll add this: there are scams in the space. There are bad actors, but overall, the people trying to build and innovate have been very welcoming. And for me, that's been the thing I've been most excited about.
You are the classical British educated gentleman living in South Africa, the former British colony. That's another good story. And you do understand what's going on in Africa in a whole. Honestly saying, I am not so experienced. I almost know nothing about what's going on regarding crypto in Africa. What do I know? I am representing one of the crypto wallet, and then the third largest community of this crypto wallet is from Nigeria. I know that there are a lot of people in Africa. I know that it is underdeveloped continent with a very interesting past, and that means that a lot of unbanked people, a huge potential of crypto Africa has, like in Asia, and this is the great potential for crypto at all. What should we know about crypto adoption among people in Africa in general? What countries of this continent are the most adopted in crypto? What do you want to say? Give us a short introduction to crypto Africa for us, crypto community.
Sure. Well, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in terms of, crypto adoption in Africa, but working with certain crypto exchanges and working with Web3 projects as a whole, and obviously being South African, I am exposed to a lot of those projects. I think that I don't think I'm going to name specific countries because I wouldn't be accurate in telling you which countries are adopting it the best or anything like that. But I can tell you that Africa's pretty primed for crypto adoption for the reasons you just stated as well, being a large portion of the population is unbanked. Many of the countries don't benefit from the current financial paradigm. So it makes a lot of sense. And El Salvador is a great example in the way that countries that are quite excluded from the current financial structure or don't benefit from it directly are going to adopt different cryptocurrencies based on what their needs are. Not too long ago, and I'm not 100% sure if this is completely accurate to this day, but not too long ago, Cardano was pegged as the Africa coin. And that is because Cardano has the capabilities, the scaling ability, and the speed to be rapidly adopted in the African nations. And as far as I'm aware, there are a lot of projects underway that are built on the Cardano blockchain that are specifically dealing with the unbanked population. In South Africa specifically, there are tons of communities that are displaced. There's a huge income divide, and a way out of that is cryptocurrency. The adoption has been spotty. The regulation is not in place here, and there's a lot of confusion as to how to move forward with it, especially since not just I guess a big challenge, especially in South Africa and a few other African nations, is a lot of this takes place online. In fact, all of it takes place online. And as much as there's quite a lot of mobile penetration in Africa, and what I mean by that is there are a lot of devices, mobile devices, which allow you to connect to the internet. Our internet is not the most stable. Our internet's not the most effective. And our current power outages and struggles in terms of infrastructure do affect it quite heavily. So that being said as well, blockchain as a whole and the platforms that sort of are being built currently have a very high barrier to entry in terms of their pricing. So it's not the average everyday person who struggles to make ends meet in South Africa who can go out and buy an NFT or take part in an NFT collection that might be $2,000 at the minting price, something like that. So there's a lot of barriers to entry, but I think in the long run, maybe in the next few years, we're going to see a lot more adoption in Africa. It's definitely one of the leading third world countries in crypto adoption, and the benefits are pretty obvious.
Well, I know that Africa is full of art people. There are a lot of African NFT art communities who, in particular, try to, I would say, return to its before colonial history. Essential history of Africa with NFT to reveal, to unleash their history, and that is a huge emotional moment for them. Is that true? Because you are an NFT consultant too, and I'm going to record an episode with a representative of African DAO or NFT community soon. So what should we know about NFTs in Africa? Because this is another part of crypto. Not in general, we talk about payments, and the NFTs, another great part of the story.
Of course. I think in terms of the NFT specifically, let me preempt this statement with a bit of context. Is when I was doing my dissertation for my digital media degree, one of the topics was the music industry in South Africa specifically, but Africa as a whole. And there is a saying by a famous scholar, and I struggle to remember his name, Edwin, I believe his name was. He said that Africa is a story of encounters. And what I love about that is that out of those encounters come creative elements that you can't get anywhere else. South Africa alone has 11 official languages, and there's not many nations that can say a similar thing. That conflict of cultures that happens on the continent creates a lot of struggle. That struggle creates a lot of creative output. And that creative output can be harnessed in a number of ways, which is kind of why I was very interested in getting into the music industry here. And as the NFT market starts to boom, that translates really well. The ability of Africans and South Africa specifically as well to engage in the international art market in terms of musical reproduction, artistic reproduction. The content generated here won't look like the content generated anywhere else, and that's sort of the unique value of it. So I think in terms of the NFT positioning, Africa and South Africa specifically are very well suited for it. And we have a unique signature in terms of our creativity. So I think if NFTs are to be adopted in a more widespread way here, again, the barrier to entry is that minting price are the other projects that are sort of don't look at Africa and South Africa inherently as a valuable geographical location. It's not always true, but that's the general consensus. NFTs will be a huge asset and a huge tool moving forward for the African nation, for the African continent, I think, especially harnessing the creative abilities mixed with the technology underlying.
Excellent. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, if you will be interested in Africa, so you know that Douglas is the great entry point and expert, the blockchain strategist expert in Africa regarding Africa. So that's the huge point of huge. I would say, I don't know exactly what word to describe it. You got the main idea. So, looking on your LinkedIn, a lot of projects you are involved in different roles. What are your current projects? Starting with ChainMosaic, and what roles are involved in there?
Sure. So I run two agencies, ChainMosaic and Banshee Studios. And Banshee Studios is sort of a multimedia, digital media production studio. So we do everything from promotional material to NFT generation and design to website graphics, etc. And then ChainMosaic is our entire Web3 blockchain integrations consultancy. So we help businesses integrate Web3 technologies into their structure. We help NFT projects sort of deliver on their promises and their utility. We design and implement strategies dealing with the Web3 space. So if it's a Web3 based event, if it's blockchain education, if it's just a simple NFT project, we help take it every step of the way and implement and maintain. So those are the two agencies I run. And then externally, I'm also the strategic advisor for W3Learn. So it's an innovative platform where they're sort of gamifying the learning process, where if you are a teacher or somebody who creates content, you can upload a course, short course, long course, doesn't matter, to do with Web3 topics. Initially, we're going to open it up later on, but initially Web3 topics such as what is a blockchain? How do you become a blockchain strategist? How do you integrate Web3 technology into your business structure? These kinds of things. Those topics are available and you can learn and earn at the same time. So you earn tokens, the native token of the W3Learn platform, still in design, but you can earn tokens from that, which translates to the real world fiat currency. Educators will be able to earn from their students taking their courses. So it's an internally sort of reciprocal economy that they're building there out of the learning and the gamifying of the learning process. I've just actually accepted a position for Ultra.io, which is a decentralized gaming ecosystem, and also a blockchain. And I'm coming on as their NFT marketplace project manager. So I'm looking forward to that. They're based in Europe. So there's a lot going on, to be fair. My co-founder, Ellie Strzelka, she has founded Conspicuous as well, which is her additional business, which deals with mental health in the metaverse. So we assist as ChainMosaic, we assist in our internal projects as well. We kind of have a lot going on at the moment. So it's nice being a blockchain strategist in that you can sort of apply what you learn to every single project you are involved in.
Just a quick look on your website, ChainMosaic.io, and you may find this link in the description. Brings me to the idea that you and your co-founder Ellie are a sort of blockchain visionaries. So you are firm believers that every business in today's epoch has to have a blockchain strategy, not less. Otherwise, it would be very hard to survive there. How do you find the word, the phrase blockchain strategy, and why every business needs to have this?
So I'll start with saying it's very, very kind to call us visionaries. I don't know if I'd use that word. I think we're pretty ingrained in the community, and as a whole, the community sort of pushes forward. I appreciate the compliment. I think Ellie would say the same thing. We try our best, but there's always new information to learn, and anybody who says they're a thought leader or an expert in the space doesn't know the space well enough, in my opinion, because there's always something new to learn every day. But on your question, I'll say that you know, what we've noticed is a rapid adoption of blockchain technology in multiple forms. That far outweighs the adoption of the internet, for example, the early days of the internet. The rush into Web3's NFTs is one of the biggest wealth redistributions, one of the biggest wealth redistributions in human history. And I think that if you're, and again, we use hyperboles on the website, but we do believe that it's important for every business that can adopt a blockchain strategy that they should. When it comes to a simple, product design studio, having an NFT marketing campaign can be the difference between your 5-year plan and your 10-year plan. It's important for certain brands to understand that the face of advertising is changing. It might be slow compared to the overall market, but within a few years, it's not going to be so slow. And also, I think the hype dies down during market struggles. As it is now, we're a bit low in the price of cryptocurrency, but still up over the past few years' history. So when that happens, a lot of fear enters the market. So it's easy for people to say that, it's a fad, it's not going to last. But the reason we say it's so important to at least start considering your blockchain strategy is because this technology will redefine how businesses function the same way that the internet redefined how businesses function. I mean, it's said multiple times by big influencers in the space. This is the next wave of the internet, and if businesses don't adopt it within the next few years, the odds of them entering the market at that point are going to be very low.
Well, we may say that, like in 90s, almost every business had to elaborate his future web strategy. If you even
exactly,
know how the advance.
And the Web3 strategy is going to be just as important, and if anything, quite a bit more lucrative. I think there are many more channels that you can access through Web3 that you couldn't access through the traditional internet structure. So I think Web3 is going to be a more valuable asset, which is why it's being adopted at a much quicker rate.
Is it possible for, let's say, a big Web2 corporation to elaborate its Web3 strategy, because it is hierarchical, it's Web2, it is centralized, it is permission. Recently I recorded a podcast episode with the guy from Procter & Gamble. He's brand director, and he's also a metaverse NFT fan. And I asked him, don't you feel you like a sort of schizophrenic, because you are working in a big corporation and a Web2 centralized, and then at the same time, simultaneously, you are looking into the metaverse space, open borderless, and so on and so forth. A lot, and explaining how is it going on. So is it possible for big corporations to have a web-free strategy? Your thoughts?
Yeah, let me preface as well with, whatever I say during this conversation will likely, 90% of it will likely change within the next 3 months. That's how quickly the space moves. But I'll answer as accurately as I can for the context at the moment, which is, yeah, a Web2 conglomerate or a large Web2 corporation can definitely move into the Web3 space. My personal opinion is it doesn't matter, because from the opinions of people I speak to in the space, the larger brands and the larger names that move into the Web3 space are not as welcomed anymore. I mean, Meta is a perfect example. Meta is, previously Facebook, one of the largest companies in the world, and they have struggled to adopt the metaverse strategy or the metaverse campaign, because the bottom line is, beyond they're overpromising and under-delivering, the community doesn't want to engage with them, and that's for numerous data privacy violations and the bad reputation they have. But they're not the only brand that are suffering at the hands of community choices. Consumers don't want to be consumers anymore, and that's the bottom line. We still are consumers as a whole, as a society, but we are choosing a different route. We're choosing what we consume now, and we're choosing how we consume it, and we're choosing who we consume it from. It's not completely there yet, but we're slowly moving towards that sort of shift. And these bigger brands that move into the Web3 space, there's no reason they can't. I just think the reason we established our agency in the first place was to sort of help these brands move in a way that is in line with the values of the Web3 space. one of my favorite sayings, which sort of sums up my answer, is that Web2 is for selling and Web3 is for sharing. And that's kind of the attitude you have to enter the space with. And if you don't, the odds of you lasting very long are pretty minimal. Now, that doesn't apply to everybody. There are huge brands that have moved into the metaverse space very successfully. And I think that might be a mixture of, the name associated with that brand and the quality associated. But alongside that, they have adopted the communication or the method of communication in the web that's famous in the Web3 space, which is not hierarchical, not tyrannical in a way, and not monopolized. It is a more community-oriented approach, and that's gonna help these bigger brands.
Definitely. And the other side of that means that if you are not a big corporation, if you are a startup or going to create a startup, this is the best time and the best place to start from scratch in Web3 space. And this is the point where Douglas Eriksen and their partners come into the space and may create your blockchain strategy or your Web3 strategy. And here we come to the pitch time, to pitch of ChainMosaic. What is ChainMosaic and what it does exactly?
So we're a Web3 integrations consultancy. That's a very broad way of saying we do whatever the market wants us to do and what we're capable of doing. We like to keep it as flexible as possible because the space changes so often that we don't want to label ourselves as, a NFT consultancy when NFTs have so many different applications and those applications are changing daily. So what we try and do is we leave ourselves open for any Web3 related query, and we will do our best to either put you in touch with the right people to deliver it, or we'll deliver it ourselves. At the moment, our specialties are in, we host Web3 events, so we educate people on the blockchain space. We're available to educate larger corporations and the institutional investors on the Web3 space. We help projects in blockchain, NFTs, and Web3 as a whole out of project rescue. So if they're falling short of community building, if they can't manage their community properly, we can help with that. We can help with NFT smart contract development. We can help with the development of blockchain projects as a whole. Basically, if you have questions about Web3, NFTs, blockchain, we can definitely help. And if we can't help, we'll find the right people to help. And that's our position in the space.
Excellent, excellent. So, Douglas, one of the moments I love to point your attention in is to explore the potential of NFT. My opinion, and I'm an economist by background, I know that the vast majority of things we do see in the real and digital world are unique. Every lawyer knows that. And that's why NFT, as a digital representative of any unique things in real world or in physical world or in digital world, they have a huge potential. It is totally unleashed. What are your thoughts on NFT as a tool and its potential, its possible use cases in upcoming, let's say, 5 or 10 years? How do you see this?
I think that the one thing that I've been researching quite heavily lately is NFTs as a digital rights management mechanism. And what I mean by that is people have a bit of a misconception about NFTs a lot of the time. The NFT isn't the artwork you see. The NFT is the underlying smart contract and the underlying mechanism. That NFT essentially acts as a tracking token for copyright IP, for basically anything you want it to act as, but it is a tracking system. That's why, on the blockchain, essentially it's data according to a timestamp placed in a block and placed in the chain. And the NFT is part of that. It's a code that exists in that ecosystem. The applications of that are pretty extensive. The one that excites me a lot is the automation of really complicated agreements that currently cost not only a lot of money, but a lot of time and a lot of education as well, because when you're looking at transferring the ownership of the property, for example, here in South Africa, we've got some of the most strenuous property laws in the world, where it can take up to 4 months for transfer of ownership of property. Not to mention the costly conveyances, the documents that go along with it, the lawyer fees, the real estate agent fees. By the time you sell your property in South Africa, it's very difficult to make a substantial profit after all those admin fees are taken off. And this is just one example, but it's a good example because where you see property tokenization of property and real estate taking off around the world, there's a reason that there's only been a handful of examples of that happening, and that's because it's not a very It's not a very easily adoptable strategy in terms of regulation. Regulation is very strict when it comes to property. And I think in the areas or the industries where regulations are very closed off and very laden with red tape, NFTs are going to struggle the most to break in. But that again is also where NFTs are the most useful to solve the problems in that space, is because we live within a regulated framework in society. So if NFTs can sort of reduce a bit of that burden in terms of how we sort of meet our, like I say, regulatory standards as individuals, if NFTs can help us reduce that risk, then I think we should adopt them quicker, and they definitely can, because they not only track, and again, there's a whole notion of pseudonymity and anonymity, but NFTs track your activity, they track your agreements, they can track they can stop you from or stop an agreement from being breached. Those kinds of mechanisms are incredibly valuable in how we sort of interact every day. I mean, we make contracts every day, from Uber to from Uber to gym contracts to whatever other agreement you want to think of. We make those agreements every day, and if NFTs can make a way of making those not only instantaneous but also incredibly secure, it changes the way we interact as people and sort of reduces the burden of corruption, reduces the burden of the lack of transparency, and I think the effects of that are quite far-reaching.
As we already know, one of the big problems of an NFT, of that very young NFT market, is it is unpredictable price of NFT, and there is a solution to fix it. It is a concept of so-called wrapped NFT. When NFT is wrapped, in particular, Envelop has developed a cross-chain protocol for that. And now comes a kind of professional question, but we would love to have your vision, your quotation in the future for that. So what is wrapping protocol? It allows to take an NFT, add any fungible asset or any fungible crypto to it, for example, Ethereum, BUSD, USDT, or whatever you like, wrap it with some new features, for example, time lock, royalties. And so this wrapped NFT we get is a new NFT with the same metadata, but its price becomes much more predictable, because it is a sort of NFT wallet with, let's say, 20 BUSD inside, which may be unlocked not earlier than 1st December of 2022. So you got the main concept. It's quite easy. So it leads to dozens of use cases of such utilizing such wrapped NFT in different ways, in such royalties, rating, gaming, even investing in tokens of the project packed into this wrapped NFT. So we've been exploring these use cases here in Envelop. So I would love to know, what are your general thoughts on that concept? How could it be useful?
I think it's an impressive development. I think the combining of the various elements is an impressive feature. I'll say, in my personal opinion, that wrapping volatile assets in other volatile assets doesn't necessarily make it stable. I think it might be a bit of a buzzword a little bit, and I understand that BUSD is a stable coin, as I like to call it. I'll be frank, there is no such thing as a stable coin. A stable coin is still a cryptocurrency. A cryptocurrency is still unregulated in most parts of the world, and they're still centralized. And people tend to forget that with all the hype, but cryptocurrencies are still centralized. Not all of them, but they are centralized as a whole. Recent events, if anything, with Luna can show you that stablecoin does not mean stable. And I think it's as much as I don't hold that against Luna necessarily, I think it's an important reminder that as much as we like to try and impose a sort of level of stability on these assets, they are incredibly volatile, which is to be expected in such a new market. I think it's an incredible innovation. I think if it can stabilize somewhat, then it'll be something quite interesting to see that combination. But I would be what can I say? I'd be hesitant to say it makes it any more stable. It simply combines different, it simply combines different assets that we don't yet fully integrate into our daily lives and calls them stable. But I would put a warning out to everybody that anything in the crypto space, including NFTs, digital currency, whatever it is, cannot be considered stable for quite a while. And I think a big reminder is that when you enter the cryptocurrency space, you are essentially gambling, and some people are better at gambling than others. But if you go in with that mindset, I think you're going to have a lot more success.
Definitely, I totally agree with you that the concept of stable coin looks sort of bizarre, because from economic point of view, and I am also the economist, I belong to also the economic school of thought, there is no such a thing like a stable price. This is a mistaken Keynesian and monetarist mindset, and which proves that the government should interfere into the monetary system to make prices stable. This is a lie, and this is another great part of the story to talk about that. We want to pay attention there, but if you are interested in this moment, please study economic theory, Austrian economics theory. So Douglas, what about regarding marketing, because you deal with marketing too, from your opinion, how is marketing of Web3 project is different comparing with marketing in the Web2 space?
I don't want to simplify it, but the biggest difference I've noticed is the tone of voice, and not just tone of voices in putting on a fake persona in order to communicate with Web3 enthusiasts, but the way you approach marketing is, it's even hard to call it marketing in the Web3 space. What I found, let me rather answer with an example of my own experiences. What I found with growing ChainMosaic and growing sort of our affiliates, our partners, and our clients, is that our lead generation happens automatically if we sort of embody as many values of the Web3 space as we can. And we try and do that, and the different values are, you know, everything from communicating in a way that's not trying to sell anybody anything. You just present your case. What are you building? What are you doing in the space? And if you present it well enough and, you know, create the content that sort of echoes those values, then people will come to you, because it's such a new space. And, you know, I'm in a very lucky position to say that. A lot of people do struggle with lead generation, but I think the more you engage with the space, the more the space will engage with you. And with that comes the following, or the community as well. So for brands moving into the space, for people who already have established marketing tools, etc., some of it translates, some of it can do. I mean, you know, it's still consumerism in a big way, so the old rules can apply. But what I find more and more is that the true crypto native space can tell the difference between genuine and an attempt to sell you something. And I think that the more you engage with the idea that you've got value to add, that needs to be your premise, that you have value to add and you want to share that value. Those projects do really well. Those projects can go quite far. And I know a lot of the projects in the space do have that premise in mind when they approach people. We've got this thing, we think it's really great. Maybe there's a way we can collaborate. So instead of sponsorships or you know, there are sponsorships, but when it comes to, what can I say? I'm trying to think of the main difference. The term wise, it's losing my mind, but basically collaboration is sort of the term that's thrown around a lot in the Web3 space, and that's because the idea is that we work together and not against each other. I think that the marketing strategies that go along with that, there needs to be rewards in place to incentivize people to buy your product. They're not just going to buy it because you're selling it anymore. And you know, up till now, the Web2 space has been, here's a targeted ad for you, and immediately your serotonin kicks in, and suddenly you have bought something that you have no need for. Whereas in the Web3 space, I think, not always, but I think as a whole, people are more selective about what they spend their money on. They want to consider everything they buy in the Web3 space to be an investment. I think that's a dangerous mindset, but I do think that is the mindset that people go in with. So you have to communicate, or you have to create something that is actually an investment, because your entire success rate is going to depend on your ability to underpromise and overdeliver. That's the best advice I can give any project, is underpromise, overdeliver.
Excellent. You know, that's why I'm personally loving podcasts and Web3, because it is quite educating. It set up relations. It doesn't sell. Makes a content management strategy. That's why I've been doing podcasts for 6 years already. And one of the hardest tasks which every Web3 project tries to solve is how to onboard people from Web2 world into Web3. May you share any tips, life hacks from your side? How would you suggest to onboard people into Web3?
Well, first and foremost, I will direct people. We've already released the platform for registration. If you go to W3Learn, you can engage in the courses that we're going to be offering there, and they'll be at least in the beginning they'll be free for students. And we're going to have a lot of different topics there about the blockchain and Web3 space. In terms of personal experience, before we've been working on this platform, before so many educational platforms became available, I literally just delved into as much information as I could find. I was working a day job and I'm studying full time at the same time. But during my free time, which was maybe 3 or 4 hours a day here and there at maximum, I would spend all my time sort of just taking in whatever information I could about the Web3 space. And you find your niche. Mine that really sparked my interest was NFTs. I was interested in cryptocurrency. I thought blockchain technology was interesting. When NFTs started gaining some momentum, then I started listening more and more. And being a musician and working in the music industry, NFTs were an obvious choice for me to be interested in. Once you find the thing you're interested in, it leads to all the other sectors of the Web3 space. That's why they say, you go down the rabbit hole, and that's exactly what it is. So it sounds very obvious because this is true for most things, but there are so many resources online. Blockworks is a good source for daily updates. Inevitable is a newsletter. So if you go to Inevitable Academy on LinkedIn as well, you can sign up for the newsletter, which you get daily updates on the Web3 space and what's happening. Go find a topic and Google the hell out of it. Watch every bit of YouTube content there is. Find journals, find law reports, find whatever it is that interests you, and go read it. Spend that time learning about it. Because whether you like it or not, it will be important in the next few years if you're looking for opportunities. I'll end that answer with this. I have numerous friends and acquaintances that have transferable skills for the Web3 space. And one of my friends struggled to find work for about 6 or 7 months near the end of this pandemic last year. 6 or 7 months, they'd applied to about 50 plus companies and maybe received 3 replies, and all of them were no. She's a graphic designer and a social media manager, very talented at what she does. I convinced her to spend a bit of time learning about NFTs and moving into the Web3 space, and she did so quite successfully. Now just this last weekend, she had 4 job offers. She currently works for 2 or 3 brands, and she's making, I think, quadruple the money she was making before. And not because there's an abundance of money, but because there's an abundance of opportunity. And I think that sort of highlights the difference between or that highlights the opportunities in the Web3 space now. So yeah, I definitely think the education is worth it if you can find those resources.
Excellent. That sounds like an excellent strategy. So just try to apply it to not in the corporate way, but look your future vacancies in the Web3. And you named the website Web3Learn.io. Is that true?
Yeah, it's W3Learn.
W3Learn.io. Yes. So I'll put this link in the description. So it seems quite an interesting resource. So that's your answer, how to learn Web3. So give us your vision. How do you see Web3 will inevitable have changed our world, our lives, and our business?
I'll answer very carefully. Let me say this, that in the next 3 months, my answer might not even make sense anymore. It changes so rapidly. The strategies that we build for our projects from January to now, I mean, it's a 4 or 5 months difference of chalk and cheese, because it's just the space changes so quickly. So I'll say whatever, instead of sort of trying to predict what it's going to look like, I'll tell you what I'd like to see. I'd like to see an update of regulation in the space. I'm personally somebody who does believe regulation is the only way to mass adoption and safe and responsible mass adoption. I have experience working for exchanges where daily you get reports of being scammed and people being taken advantage of, and there's no recourse for that because the blockchain transactions are irreversible. So being able to, first of all, education is important. I hope that a lot of people getting into the space learn how to get educated properly on it. Then secondly, regulation, I would hope would update to fit the scope of what people are building. Law and technology have always been, what can I say, determined by each other, but law has always been a bit slower. So I would like to see legislative mechanisms put in place that might even be existing on the blockchain, that will sort of allow us to have a more responsible and regulated space so that mass adoption becomes more possible. I'd also really like to see the populations that are more unbanked, the populations that don't have access to these digital innovations, to have access improved, to have opportunities improved, and to sort of take part in the global digital paradigm shift that's kind of happening. I would like to see that, and I think that through blockchain technology, NFTs especially, I think that we can sort of achieve that. So I'd like to see that in the next 5 to 10 years.
This has been extremely strategic episode, really, Douglas. So the final question: how to follow you or ChainMosaic on all the other resources on the internet, and to join the part of the Web3 with the help of you?
So for me, you can find me, Douglas Eriksen, on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time and engage with people. So feel free to connect with me on there. You can follow me at Instagram at Douglas.Eriksen. Twitter is at @future_mosaic. So feel free to follow me on any of those platforms. I also have a Medium account. You can find that through my LinkedIn. As for ChainMosaic, we have the LinkedIn page, ChainMosaic, and our website is ChainMosaic.io. You can also follow us on Instagram at ChainMosaic.io. And then finally, our digital media studio is BansheeStudios.xyz. We also have a LinkedIn page and an Instagram account. So feel free to follow us on wherever you want to, and you can connect with us and tell us which project is, or just want to learn about the space. We'll be happy to help.
This has been an amazing episode I've ever done in the blockchain space. It is really strategic. So, ladies and gentlemen, find all the links in the description of this video. Find Douglas Eriksen on LinkedIn, connect with them, and dive into the world of Web3, because his mind will drive you into, he understands what to do. This has been an episode of the DAO Envelop podcast. Douglas Eriksen, the blockchain strategist and NFT consultant, and me, Eugene CryptoMC, as the media host over there. Thank you for watching and listening. Please like, subscribe, share, join our Telegram chat, subscribe on this YouTube channel, and be the part of Web3, and consider your personal Web3 strategy, because Web3, it is not about corporation, it's not about advertising, it's about persons, it's about owning everything you are dealing with on the internet. Thank you very much, Douglas. See you on the next episode on the DAO Envelop podcast. Bye-bye. Blockchain, BLOCK chain. Digital money, smart contracts, NFT, IDO, decentralization, transparency, so many opportunities, but so many challenges. Some financial manipulators, by their actions, confuse blockchain solutions and block their development. The idea that the blockchain should bring copyright and royalties protection to the next level is quite old, but the realizations of these ideas are not perfect at all. There is another problem of determining the value of a particular cryptocurrency or NFT. These and other problems need to be solved. Fortunately, the blockchain infrastructure is evolving. My name is Mr. E, and I represent the Envelop project. Many things have already been invented in the blockchain today. Tokens, smart contracts, platforms for creating your own coins, NFTs, exchanges for buying, selling, and exchanging all these blockchain resources. Envelop is another step in the development of crypto technologies, the protocol that works with NFT and cryptocurrencies. The idea is simple but disruptive. Let's assume you have an NFT, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Using the Envelop protocol, you can wrap the original NFT accompanied with several tokens. Technically, you get a similar NFT, but what is the breakthrough here? Once wrapped, the token has a number of additional features that were not available before. The minimal cost appears. It is provided with coins wrapped together with NFT. An asset wrapped with Envelop has a number of properties that allow the original author to receive royalties from the resale of that asset. Various rules can be applied to the wrapped token. For example, a lock period for unwrapping. It secures the asset till the determined moment, or safeguards it from speculation during the hype period. At the same time, wrapped tokens can be transferred and traded. These are just some of the scenarios for using Envelop. NFTs become more popular, and the tools provided by Envelop expand the opportunities of NFTs utilization. Wide application possibilities are achieved due to the fact that, in addition to the protocol, the project includes a number of subsystems. The protocol provides functions wrapping and unwrapping. Oracle Mechanics provides asset valuation using analytical algorithms. Index provides a summary assessment of several NFT assets with the common criteria. The project has its own token, which connects all elements of the system. Altogether, this is Envelop, a tool in the blockchain world for building modern and secure systems in various fields. Find more info about the project on the website. Envelop. Make your NFT valuable. Just practical, no hype.